When God blesses you, not everyone will celebrate you. In fact, the moment God begins to elevate you, that's when opposition often rises. That's why silence becomes your greatest strength. When heaven opens its doors over your life, don't rush to announce it to the world, because not every ear is holy and not every heart is pure. Some things are meant to be hidden until they are fully formed. A seed grows best in the dark. God's blessings, too, often flourish in silence, away from the noise, away from the doubters, away from the envy. It's in that quiet obedience, in that humble silence, where true spiritual power lies. Many people lose their blessing not because God changed his mind, but because they opened their mouths too soon. They exposed what was meant to be sacred. They shared the vision with those who didn't carry the faith to understand it. Joseph shared his dream with his brothers, and it landed him in a pit before it took him to the palace. There's a lesson in that. Your silence is not weakness. It's wisdom, it's protection, it's surrender. It's you saying, God, I trust you more than I trust applause. I trust the process more than I need attention. Sometimes keeping quiet is the loudest declaration of faith. Let them wonder, let them assume, let them question. You don't need to defend what God is doing. When the time is right, the fruit will speak. When the promise is fulfilled, it will shine so bright that even your enemies won't be able to deny it. In this season, don't talk, build, don't boast, pray, don't post praise. The greatest breakthroughs come not through noise, but through stillness. The battle is not yours, it's the Lord's, and his strategy often includes silence. So when God blesses you, keep your mouth shut. Let the blessing speak when it's time. Let your life testify. Let your transformation do the talking. And until then, stay hidden, stay humble, and stay in him. When God blesses you, the natural human response is to want to share it. We want to tell others about the good things that are happening in our lives. It's exciting, fulfilling, and affirming to feel the hand of God moving in our favor. But one of the most powerful principles of spiritual maturity is understanding that not every blessing is meant to be broadcast. Some blessings are sacred. Some doors are opened in silence. And sometimes keeping your mouth shut is not just a sign of humility. It's a divine strategy for protection. There is spiritual wisdom in restraint. When God gives you something, be it a new opportunity, a calling, a relationship, or even a divine revelation, it comes wrapped not only in glory but also in responsibility. The moment you receive it, you are given a choice to guard it or to expose it. And what many don't realize is that premature exposure often invites unnecessary warfare. What you reveal too soon may not yet have the strength to withstand the pressure of outside opinions, jealousy, or spiritual attack. The spiritual realm operates differently than the physical. In the physical, we often celebrate early wins even if they are just beginnings. But in the spiritual, there is power in concealment. God often works behind the scenes, developing the blessing in private before he presents it to the world. Think of Mary, the mother of Jesus. When she received word from the angel that she would give birth to the Son of God, she didn't go broadcasting it to everyone. The Bible says she pondered these things in her heart. That is spiritual wisdom. Some revelations are too holy to be handled by unholy hands. When God blesses you, your silence becomes a shield. It protects what's being formed. Just like a baby in the womb, a blessing in its early stages is vulnerable. It needs time to mature. It needs space to grow. The wrong words, the wrong energy, and the wrong people can interfere with its development. People may not attack you directly, but their negativity, doubt, or envy can seep into the atmosphere around you and subtly influence your thoughts and emotions. What was once a pure blessing now becomes a battleground of spiritual confusion because it was exposed too soon. Consider Joseph in the Old Testament. God gave him dreams of greatness. In his youthful zeal, he shared them with his brothers. What followed? Betrayal, a pit, slavery, and years of delay before the dream was fulfilled. Was the blessing real? Yes. Was the calling from God? Absolutely. But his lack of discretion brought about unnecessary suffering. The pit wasn't the result of the dream, it was the result of sharing it prematurely. This story isn't to discourage you from dreaming big or from walking in your calling. It's to teach you how to steward it wisely. Not everyone around you has the capacity to celebrate you. Some people are too wounded by their own lack to handle your gain. Some are too insecure to appreciate your growth. And some are so threatened by your potential that they'll try to sabotage you before you even begin. It's not always obvious who these people are. They can wear the face of family, friends, even those in spiritual leadership. That's why discernment is essential, and one of the clearest signs of discernment is knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. There is a time for testimony. There is a time for shouting your praise from the rooftops. But that time must be appointed by God. Many of us share the victory before the battle is even won. We post the job offer before signing the contract. We announce the relationship before building the foundation. We declare the vision before writing the plan, and then, when it falls apart, we're left confused, heartbroken, and exposed. God's blessings are not fragile, but they are sacred, and sacred things must be handled with care. When the Israelites carried the Ark of the Covenant, it was so holy that even touching it the wrong way could lead to death. Now, we don't live under the same covenant, but the principle remains. What is divine must be treated with reverence. That includes the blessings God gives you. Keeping your mouth shut doesn't mean you're hiding what God has done. It means you're honoring it. You're saying, God, I trust you more than I trust my audience. You're declaring, this is yours to reveal, not mine to showcase. There is humility in silence, and there is power in that humility. Sometimes God blesses you not just for you, but for a greater purpose. The timing of its revelation may affect more than just your life. It may affect the lives of others around you. When you speak too soon, you may be interfering with how God intends to use your blessing to minister to someone else. The impact may be reduced. The reach may be shortened. The testimony may be weakened. Let the fruit speak when it's time. You won't have to convince anyone of what God has done. You won't have to explain your process or justify your progress. When the blessing has matured, it will be undeniable. It will be so evident that even your critics will have no choice but to acknowledge it. That's why God calls us to patience, to obedience, to trust. So if you've been blessed, stay quiet. Let your actions speak louder than your words. Let your consistency echo louder than your announcement. Let your peace be your defense and your discipline be your declaration. In the right season, the blessing will reveal itself in a way that is far greater than any words you could have spoken. Trust the silence. It's not empty. It's sacred. When God begins to bless your life, elevate your calling, or give you a divine dream, He often does so in secret. He works in the hidden places of your life, behind the scenes, away from the spotlight. Spiritual growth, like physical growth, does not happen on the surface. It happens beneath it. Just as a seed must be buried in the dark soil to sprout, the blessings and transformations God brings forth in your life often begin in darkness, in isolation, in stillness. There is something deeply powerful about how God chooses to work when no one else is watching. In our modern world, everything is about visibility. If you're doing something meaningful, it's expected that you'll share it. People are conditioned to post, announce, go live, and let the world know what's happening in real time. But the kingdom of God doesn't work like that. What is divine is often hidden first. It is concealed before it is revealed. This is not a delay or denial. It is God's process, and His process always leads to perfection. Spiritual growth takes place in hiddenness because that is where your heart is refined. It's where your motives are purified. It's where your character is strengthened. Public blessings without private preparation lead to spiritual ruin. That's why God develops your spirit in quiet seasons, seasons where no one is praising you, applauding you, or validating you. It's in these moments of silence that He builds your foundation strong enough to carry the weight of the blessing He is preparing to place upon your life. Consider how a tree grows. The roots must go deep before the branches can go high. The deeper the roots, the greater the strength and sustainability of the tree. Likewise, the deeper your spiritual foundation, the more time you spend in private prayer, in worship, in submission, the more prepared you are to handle the favor and elevation God is bringing your way. But that root system, it grows underground, unseen, uncelebrated, and completely essential. This hidden growth is where your true relationship with God is formed. It's where you learn to hear His voice in the quiet. It's where your faith is forged, not in the fire of applause, but in the furnace of solitude. This is the kind of growth that makes you unshakable, because when storms come, and they will, you won't fall apart. You won't be moved by opinions, by trials, or by delay. Because your growth wasn't rooted in visibility, it was rooted in intimacy with God. Jesus Himself modeled this. Before He began His public ministry, He spent 40 days alone in the wilderness. He didn't rush into the spotlight. He allowed the Father to prepare Him in secret. Even when He performed miracles, He often told people not to speak of them. Why? Because He understood the power of divine timing and the need for privacy in the process. He knew that what God builds in the dark becomes unstoppable in the light. This hidden growth also protects your blessing from premature exposure. What grows too fast and too publicly can become a target. The enemy is always looking for ways to destroy what God is doing. When your spiritual growth is visible before it's stable, it becomes vulnerable. But when it's hidden, God has time to shield it, to anchor it, and to strengthen it. That way, when it is finally revealed, it is unshakable. There's also something sacred about knowing you and God are building something together. Just the two of you, without interference, without noise, without distraction. It creates intimacy, it creates trust. It allows you to truly depend on Him and not on others' approval or validation. That kind of growth births something pure, something eternal, something heaven-backed, and when the time comes for God to bring that growth into the open, when your season of hiddenness is over, it will be undeniable. The fruit of your life will speak for itself. You won't have to convince anyone of your growth. You won't have to explain what you've been through. Your transformation will be your testimony, and the people who doubted you, who ignored you, or who overlooked you will witness the power of what God did in you quietly. This is why you must not despise the hidden seasons. You must embrace them. They are not punishment. They are preparation. They are not delays. They are development. God is not forgetting about you. He is forming you. Every prayer you've prayed in silence, every tear you've cried alone, every act of obedience you've made without recognition, He saw it, He heard it, and He's using it. The hidden places are where leaders are formed, where warriors are trained, and where legacies are born. The longer the hidden season, the deeper the impact of the reveal. So do not rush the process. Do not try to skip the stillness. Do not push yourself into the spotlight before God sends you. Because if you go before you grow, the weight of visibility will crush you. But if you allow God to grow you in silence when He raises you up, nothing and no one will be able to bring you down. Remember, flowers don't bloom in the light alone. They start underground, roots tangled in darkness, soaked in mystery, strengthened in pressure. Your spiritual growth works the same. What God is doing in you right now, though invisible, is invaluable, though unseen, it is unstoppable, though quiet, it is powerfully holy, so stay in the process, stay hidden if he asks you to. Stay humble, stay obedient, let him develop you in the dark, because when the time comes and the light shines on what you've become, the world will not only see what you've done, but who God has shaped you to be. And that kind of growth, that kind of blessing, that only comes from time spent in the sacred, silent place with him. When God begins to move powerfully in your life, one of the most critical things he requires from you is discipline, particularly the discipline of silence. When divine favor touches you, when doors begin to open, and when your spirit is stirred with a promise or vision, the natural human instinct is to speak about it, to share the good news, to tell others what God is doing. But spiritual maturity demands more. It calls for wisdom. It calls for restraint. It calls for the understanding that not every blessing needs to be broadcast, and not every word from God is meant for public consumption. This is where the third key point takes root. Silence is protection. In the spiritual realm, your silence isn't just a passive act. It's an act of war. It's a shield. It's a strategy. When God blesses you with something big, keeping your mouth shut isn't about secrecy for secrecy's sake. It's about protecting the sacred, the things God deposits in your heart. Visions, assignments, miracles are like precious seeds. If spoken too soon or to the wrong people, those seeds can be trampled, stolen, or mocked. That's why discernment is critical. Just because something is exciting doesn't mean it's ready to be exposed. Just because you know what God said doesn't mean you have to prove it to others. Silence isn't weakness, it's strength wrapped in wisdom. Look at Joseph in the book of Genesis. God gave him vivid dreams of greatness, of ruling, of influence. But Joseph, in his youthful excitement, shared those dreams with his brothers, people who were not ready to celebrate him. Instead of applauding him, they became jealous. His words sparked envy, and his journey took a detour into betrayal and imprisonment. The lesson is clear. Not everyone is capable of handling what God has told you. Not everyone can see what you see. When you speak too soon, you invite warfare that may not have been necessary. Silence in the early stages of a blessing is like a spiritual greenhouse. It allows what God is doing to take root without external disturbance. Moreover, silence keeps your motives pure. Sometimes when we speak too early about what God is doing, we unintentionally shift our focus from honoring him to impressing others. The blessing becomes less about his glory and more about our image. Silence keeps your heart anchored. It reminds you that what God is doing in you is not for show, not for clout, not for validation, but for his divine purpose. It ensures that your obedience is rooted in reverence, not recognition. Another reason silence is crucial is because it starves the enemy of intel. The devil isn't all-knowing. He's observant. He watches, he listens, he studies patterns. The moment you start declaring prematurely what God is building in you, the enemy starts forming attacks to disrupt it. But when you stay silent, you keep the enemy confused. He cannot sabotage what he cannot see. This is why the Bible tells us to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Wisdom sometimes looks like quiet progress. Strategic silence, moving in alignment with heaven without needing human applause. In the early stages of a calling, project, or personal transformation, the atmosphere is fragile. Words carry weight. They can build or break. Speaking too much can bring unnecessary opinions, doubts, and distractions. Even well-meaning people can unknowingly speak fear or confusion over what God told you. Silence gives you space to protect the atmosphere around your promise. It allows God's voice to be louder than the noise of opinions. Silence also invites God's presence in a deeper way. When you resist the urge to speak and instead meditate, pray, and listen, your spiritual sensitivity sharpens. You become more tuned into divine instruction. You begin to recognize that what matters most is not how many people know your story, but how closely you walk with the one who wrote it. Silence creates room for intimacy. It becomes a sacred posture of trust, saying to God, I believe in what you said so much that I don't need to announce it. I trust your timing. I trust your unveiling. Jesus practiced this principle. There were countless moments when he could have declared his divinity, showcased his power, or demanded recognition. Yet often, after performing miracles, he told people not to speak of it. He withdrew to quiet places. He embraced silence because he understood that revelation without preparation leads to resistance. The same principle applies today. Let God work in silence so that when he reveals you, it is undeniable, unstoppable, and rooted in his timing, not your eagerness. Silence doesn't mean you lack confidence. It means you have spiritual maturity. It means you know that if the blessing is from God, it will speak for itself when the time is right. There will be a moment when God tells you to speak, when the testimony is complete, when the fruit is visible, when the foundation is firm. But until then, your silence is your sanctuary. It's your strategy. It's your strength. In a world obsessed with oversharing, silence is countercultural, but it's also incredibly powerful. It's the mark of someone who walks with God closely enough to know that the secret place is the most powerful place. It's the sign of someone who values purpose over popularity. It's the behavior of someone who understands that God's greatest moves often begin in whispers, not shouts. So if you sense that God is blessing you, shifting something, preparing something big, keep it sacred. Keep it hidden until he says otherwise. Don't let social pressure push you into premature exposure. What God is doing in you is too precious, too holy, too divine to be paraded before it's ready. Let your silence be your offering. Let your stillness be your strength, and trust that when the time comes, God himself will make the announcement. You won't have to say a word. The blessing will speak. The favor will be visible. The promise will manifest. And those who doubted, ignored, or questioned will witness the undeniable evidence of what God did in the quiet places of your life. When God blesses you, it's not only a moment of celebration, it's also a call to walk in humility. This is the deeper truth behind the fourth key point. Humility protects your elevation. God does not give his gifts and breakthroughs for the sake of ego, status, or recognition. He blesses you so that his power, love, and purpose can flow through you to impact the world. And one of the most dangerous mistakes a person can make is to take God's glory and convert it into personal pride. Humility, therefore, becomes not just a virtue but a shield, a necessary foundation to carry what God is entrusting you with. When you're in a season of divine favor, when prayers begin to be answered, when opportunities arise, when healing flows, when doors swing open, it's easy for pride to creep in silently. It might start with subtle thoughts, I deserve this, or I've worked harder than others, or look at what I've accomplished. But when your heart shifts from grateful to boastful, you begin to walk a dangerous line. Pride puts the spotlight on self. Humility keeps the spotlight on God. When you boast about the blessing instead of giving glory to the blesser, you make yourself vulnerable to spiritual attacks, envy, and even downfall. God promotes those who remain low in spirit. Scripture constantly affirms that he lifts up the humble and brings low the proud. When you carry a humble heart, you remind yourself and others that everything you have, your talents, your success, your platform, your influence, is by grace, not merit. You begin to operate not out of entitlement, but out of gratitude. That kind of posture keeps your spirit healthy and your relationship with God pure. It shields you from becoming addicted to validation and applause. Humility also allows God to continue molding you. A prideful heart stops learning, it refuses correction, it assumes it knows better, but a humble heart stays teachable, pliable, open to instruction. God cannot use someone who thinks they've arrived. But he can do wonders with someone who says, Lord, I need you every step of the way. That level of humility keeps the flow of divine wisdom open. It makes you a vessel, not a monument. There's also something powerful about the connection between humility and stewardship. When you're humble, you're aware that the blessing isn't just for you, it's for others through you. You're not just receiving from God, you're being entrusted. Whether it's financial favor, a business idea, a platform, or even spiritual gifts, you begin to see them as tools for kingdom impact, not personal gain. Humility keeps your motives aligned with God's mission. It's not how can I use this to make my name great, but how can I use this to make your name known? Another powerful dimension of humility is how it affects your relationships. A humble person doesn't operate from a place of superiority. They don't look down on others who haven't yet received what they have. Instead, they remain compassionate, patient, and generous. They remember the pain of the waiting season. They don't brag about their breakthroughs. They quietly encourage others that their time will come too. That kind of character builds community, not competition. It reflects the heart of Jesus who, though he was God, washed his disciples' feet. Humility also influences how you handle criticism and misunderstanding. When you are humble, you don't feel the need to defend every decision or prove your worth to everyone. You operate from a place of peace, not pride. You let God be your defender. You don't fight for attention. You trust that God will elevate you in His time and in His way. That inner calm protects your mind from unnecessary stress and your spirit from bitterness. It's also important to realize that humility is not weakness. It's not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. It's having confidence without arrogance. It's being bold without being boastful. It's standing firm in who God called you to be while still acknowledging that without Him you are nothing. Humility doesn't mean hiding your light. It means shining it in a way that brings glory to the source, not to the lamp. In practical terms, humility looks like giving thanks constantly. It looks like being the first to apologize. It looks like honoring others even when they don't honor you back. It looks like saying, I don't know, when you need help. It looks like celebrating others' blessings without comparing or complaining. And it looks like returning to God over and over with a heart that says, I am yours, use me as you will. When God blesses you and elevates you, humility becomes your anchor. It grounds you so that the winds of success don't blow you off course. It keeps your heart aligned with heaven. It ensures that your growth doesn't outpace your character. Because here's the truth, what you gain through pride, you'll have to maintain through performance. But what you receive through humility, God will sustain with grace. If you want to walk in long-term favor, if you want to carry something eternal and not just temporary, humility is non-negotiable. It protects the blessing, honors the giver, and keeps you usable in God's hands. Because ultimately, the goal isn't just to be blessed. The goal is to remain in alignment with the one who blesses, and there's no safer place to be than in a posture of humility.